What's up, everybody? It's Chase with Semi-Pro's Garage, and we're back out here filming part 2 of part 2. So, was supposed to be not 18 different parts of this video, but we just had a lot of information to go in one video, so we decided to break it up and then break it up again. So, we're wrapping up our actual engine build, in total. So today we're going to film the getting the proper pushrod length to set the desired preload on the lifters that you guys decide to use. So the lifters that I went with are a Johnson short travel lifter. The procedure for finding and buying the proper push rods to set desired preload for your lifter, the procedure, regardless of the lifter, is going to be the same. The preload will be different. So your push rod length and preload is going to be different, but the procedure to actually find the numbers that you need is going to be the same. So, the short travel lifters obviously is going to be less preload. You have your stock style lifters that are going to have a larger preload window. So you guys will get to see that. We got the heads on the motor, and we're ready to, I've got my push rods, and we're ready to actually put the push rods in the motor, and I'll show you guys the procedure of using my pushrod length checker and showing you guys how I found the length of pushrod that I need to have the proper preload. So, and we'll show you how setting preload is about counting rotations. I mean, there's a bunch of videos out that I'm sure a lot of you guys know, but we're going to go through and show that whole process now. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, guys. So we are now at the point. And when you guys are at the point of having the lifters in the motor and your cylinder heads on, and you are now ready to check your push rod length and put your rockers, push rods, and everything in and tighten it all down. So there's a couple different ways that you can get your push rod length and know that you're going to have the right push rod length set. Everything's with the right preload and everything, and exactly what the motor is going to need. You can start with a pushrod length checker, which I believe is right here. Use your pushrod length checker, and I did not get a good pushrod length checker because my reference was, and this is already set to 7,350, just over 7,350, but this is just a reference. It's not obviously a true number. That gets you in the ballpark of what, because you know that push rods are only the increments of 25 thousandths. So I got a cheap one that has no line indicator or anything on it because I already had this 8-inch digital caliper that I could use to check the size of this. If you get a good Comp Cams push rod length checker, they have a straight line across the body and the cap, and for every rotation is 50 thousandths. So for every time that line goes around and it lines back up with the body, the cap and the body, that you have a 50 thousandths difference. So obviously half a rotation when that line's here and it's on the back side of this one, 25 thousandths. I didn't do that because I already had this. So if you want to do a pushrod length checker, you can do that, or you can use, if you already have an existing set of push rods that you have OEM set or aftermarket or whatever, and you've already had a motor together, you can use an existing push rod. If you know how to do math and how many rotations give you a certain amount of preload or whatever, whatever your target preload is on your lifter that you are using, if you can do the math, you can use an existing push rod, which is, if I had an existing set, that's what I would have done, but I don't have an existing set. So what I ended up doing, and I'll show you guys how I did this, I started at 7,400, which is, that's kind of a starting point, like a rule of thumb for a lot of the LS motors. Started at that number, and whenever I put the push rod in, and I'll just start by saying, I should probably just say this. This is my target preload for the Johnson short travel lifters that I have. It is, I don't know if you guys can see that, it is 35 thousandths, plus or minus 10 thousandths. So you can be anywhere from 45 thousandths to 25 thousandths on these short travel Johnson lifters. Now, the window for these lifters is a lot smaller than the window for a stock style lifter, right? Now, here's where the math comes into play. If you are using a stock style lifter, let's see, GM LS7, Morale, Thompson's Motorsports has stock style lifters, whatever if it's a stock style lifter, the preload on those lifters can be anywhere from 50 to 80 or all the way up to 100 thousandths, right? But if your target preload, let's say the target preload is, let's say 50 thousandths, right? There's so many videos out there now that can show you that on a stock style lifter, whenever you're going to check preload, at 50 thousandths, whenever you go to start your torque sequence, or actually tighten now, not your torque sequence, but you are ready to actually tighten the rocker down, and you are starting from 0 lash. Now, what I'll start with is just showing you how to actually measure the push rod. If you're starting with an existing push rod that is just a random length, or the Pushrod Length checker. Now, what I did was, like I said, I started 7/400, and I got that push rod adjusted out to 7/400 based on what my caliper said, and I started at 7/400. Now, when you're ready to put that push rod in and you go to tighten the rocker down, your start point is from 0 lash. Now, what 0 lash is, we're going to make this simple. And this whole process is extremely simple. It's not complicated. This video is a little bit longer because we're talking about, this is a compilation of an entire engine build. So this is extremely simple. 0 lash, you'll hear people talk about if you can spin the push rod, blah, blah, blah. I got big hands. I ain't getting my fingers in there to check that push rod. 0 lash, when you still have side-to-side movement on your rocker, that is fine. You cannot have any up or down movement on that rocker. You should not be able to wiggle it up and down, which is where we are here. I have side to side, right? You can see that. I have no up and down movement. It's not tapping, okay? That is your 0 lash point. Now, if you can do the math, on a stock style lifter is what we're going to use for reference. If you are starting and you are setting your preload and you're checking your preload, starting with your torque wrench at 12 o'clock, you want to have, in a stock style lifter, minimum 3/4 rotation, where you've gone from 12 o'clock to a 3/4 rotation here and ended at 9 o'clock. You're in the money there. Anywhere from, depending on what the range is on a lifter, on a stock style lifter, you can be anywhere from 3/4 turn to a turn and a quarter on a stock style lifter. Now, here's where the math comes in. If you know that 3/4, which is here, is 50 thousandths, right around. We're talking very, very close. This is where you're in the money. If you know that that is 50 thousandths, okay, on my target, that is 35 thousandths, and could be 45 thousandths to 25 thousandths, right? If that 3/4 is 50 thousandths, then I know a quarter turn is 25 thousandths. I want to be on the other end of that. I want to be on the 45 thousandths to 50 thousandths end of that spectrum. The reason why is when this motor gets, and you can talk, anybody that you call BTR, Johnson, whoever, when these aluminum, it's an aluminum block, aluminum head motor. The tolerances, when this motor gets warm and lifters get pumped up, but everything expands because it gets hot and it gets up to running temp, that preload, there's not as much preload. Everything expands. So that 50 thousandths then turns into about 35 thousandths, okay? But if you're at your 45 thousandths or 40 thousandths, everything expands. You're still within your 25 thousandths preload, give or take. And they will tell you that you need to aim for, on my specific lifter, that you need to aim more towards the 45 to 50 thousandths preload, okay? I already know that I'm going to be there because I've already tightened these ones down. So whenever I go to put that, when I put that 7/400 in there, that lifter that push rod was too long. So what ended up happening is, when I started at 12 o'clock and I rotated down, I knew I got to my 3/4, I got to my turn and a quarter, and it got down to right around in between a turn and a quarter and a turn and a half, right? And I knew that if you're getting too much of a rotation, if you're getting too much preload, you need a shorter push rod. If you're not getting enough preload and you're only going from 12 o'clock and you're here, you need a longer push rod. So I knew when I did my preload and I came from here and that thing just kept on going, I knew that I needed a shorter push rod. So my next step was, took my Pushrod length checker, pulled it out of the motor, spun it down like this, and just where it fits without actually moving those calipers, which right now it's not. Here, let's go ahead and just give you a little reference. So let's zero it out, right, which it's zeroed out now. So let's go 7/400. Where are we at? Right. That's pretty close right there. So within 0.002. That's very close. So what I did was take my Pushrod length checker and adjust this out to just where it touches without actually expanding those calipers, which is right there. That is 7/400 right there. So I put this in there, too many rotations, right? So then I took it down to 7/375, 25 thousandths increment. See if I can get this thing back up to close to where that's at. Right about, let's just say there, because I can mess with the thing for like 10 minutes trying to get it right. And as you can see, this thing will not go in there now. So you have to shorten this some and get it just in those caliper, and it's still too much. So tighten it a little bit more. Right there. And it is just fitting inside, and I can feel it kind of touch right there. Right? This was 7/375. Still too many rotations. I was at a full turn, and that is more than my 50 thousandths preload that I want to be at. So I took it down to 7/350. And when I did that, now I'll be able to show you guys, I have my 7/350. And I know I'm saying those numbers, it might bug some people that I'm not going by thousandths, don't care. So I had my 7/350 push rod in there. And right now, starting from zero lash, and a good way to get zero lash, guys, just by hand, get your 3/8 12 point, which is the 10 millimeter because the 3/8 is on there. So whatever. Get your 3/8 12 point, and you take that and you just barely get it kind of just not even snug really, but you just feel where that thing starts to bite a little. Got my side to side, and I do not have and actually I could go probably a little bit, that's actually a little too tight. Now, I don't know if you can hear that. A little more right in between. Just you can kind of feel that. So I got my side to side, no up and down. That thing is not moving up and down. That is my zero lash. So from that point, and I have my torque stick at 25 foot-pounds, starting at 12 o'clock. This thing is sit on there, right? Come on. Good grief. There we go. 12 o'clock. Right there. Now that is just under, we're well over our 25 thousandths, which would be probably right around a quarter turn, a little bit more. 35 to 40 thousandths. We are right in, that thing ends right here, is where it was. We're in the money right there. So 50 thousandths on a stock style lifter is 3/4 turn. You're in the money, right? With that target of, my target preload is anywhere from 45 thousandths to 25 thousandths. This is exactly where I need to be at. Is right where I just was. Now I'll go ahead and do another one. And what you're doing too, now whenever you're tightening these down, you verify push rod length, you're good to go, just like we are now. We know that those push rods are the right length, okay? Whenever you're actually tightening everything down, you just don't want there to be any valve spring pressure, which like there is right here on this one, and there is on this one. Maybe not. I think maybe one of those is just not sitting in there right. Well, actually, yeah, that's fine. So we'll rotate the motor, but all you're doing is, there's a method of EOIC, exhaust open, intake close, right? And then whenever, they're never going to be open at the same time. We all know that, right? So you just want there to be no spring pressure. You don't have to go cross the motor here in your firing order. You can go in the firing order if you want it to take forever. But once you've verified your pushrod length is correct on multiple cylinders, because you can have different pushrod lengths for exhaust and intake, that's actually a common thing. Or you can have some different side to side. But once you've verified, and I have, that you have multiple cylinders and everything's the same length and it's all good, rotate that motor over, which I'll do right here. And you can just look and see which ones have spring pressure. It doesn't have to be anything crazy that you have to go in your firing order, whatever. I know guys that would literally just, once they verified that, take an impact and just torque them down. Don't go crazy with it and go to 100 foot-pounds, but take an impact and run it down. The body of this rocker is going to bottom out on the rocker stand. It's not going to go anywhere. You're just putting unnecessary load on the bolt, but it's against a solid surface. You're not. I mean, I know guys that will just verify that and just run it all down and not even rotate the motor over. I just choose to rotate the motor over. But all you have to do, you don't have to go in a specific order. Just rotate the motor over, and I'm gonna look for spring pressure here on this cylinder. So right now it's got spring pressure. All right. So that push rod is going down. Now watch. So this is opening. So this would be closed. If this is opening, which you guys just saw that move, I'll go back the other way. You can see that valve is opening. Okay? That means this valve is closed. So this rocker has no spring pressure. So now, set that over there. Get my little, I'm not going to say what I was getting ready to say. Get the ARP nut and starting it down and just to where you feel it, you know, and I'm just redoing this now, but normally I would just be tightening everything down. I wouldn't go to re-show this process again. So once I've got that on there and I have no up and down and I have side to side is fine. No up and down. That's not tapping, that's not clicking. That is my zero lash. Starting at 12 o'clock. Right there, same exact as the last one. So I'm in the money at my 45 thousandths preload, which is the range that I need to be at. Now, this will, at around 45 thousandths preload, when this motor gets hot, everything's going to expand about 10 thousandths, maybe a little bit more, could be 15 thousandths. But if I'm at 45 thousandths, which I know that's right about where that's at, I'm in the money. And when everything expands, my preload is fine on these short travel lifters. So we are good to go. Now, like I said, I'm not going to worry about checking zero lash. I might on a couple over there on that just to make sure nothing's crazy. All these other ones have been fine. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this motor over, and whatever ones I see don't have spring pressure, this one does. This one does not. If this one's got spring pressure and that push rod is up, this one is not. So what I'm going to do is just work my way around, and once I get everything 25 foot-pounds, rotate the motor some more, do them again, rotate it another time, do it again, and just recheck to make sure that everything is at 25 foot-pounds. Once you've done that, you're ready to put those valve covers back on, and then we go from there. So the next video that I will be filming, and that wraps up this part of the video. Now, the next video that you guys are going to see, the engine is going to be in the bay, and I probably won't do a whole lot of the putting and actually assembling the motor piece by piece, the turbo kit. I might do a little video to touch on it, but you just saw us. We've already uploaded the top dead center video, getting true top dead center. And then we did, we're wrapping up our pushrod length and proper preload video now. So it'll come full circle when the next time, you see me, the car is going to be fired up. So we're going to fire it up, set the proper trigger or firing angle on the ECU, make sure everything is running good, get the motor up to temp, rev it up, make sure that line doesn't move on the damper. And that way, the video probably after that is going to be dyno day. So, the next time you see me, it's going to be, running, driving and all that fun stuff. So you guys will get to see that and see, I'm going to film the dyno, and then immediately after we do dyno day, hopefully everything goes smooth with firing it up. I'm not going to run into any complications, but you never really know, honestly, with a fresh build. So, I'm not expecting to run into any type of issues or anything. So when dyno day, everything goes good on dyno day, probably that day or the weekend of, I'll probably load the car up and go test, make sure everything's good. If we decide we want to go race, make a good shakedown pass to make sure everything's good and feels good with the car. So the next 2 or 3 videos are going to be we're getting into the good stuff now. So, like I said, this wraps up the pushrod length and proper preload video. So thank you guys again. Like and subscribe, and stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a good one coming up. See ya.